Someone made a deal with a spiritual woman to block you, my dear child. If you believe in angels, start this video and watch it through. Angel says someone made a deal with a spiritual woman to block your destiny, but the woman last night, she broke everything, not by choice but by force, and you weren't supposed to know because it was meant to stay sealed under darkness and shadows that move in silence, with names never uttered aloud, but the one who watches in secret has put this in the light, and nothing can be hidden when heaven's hour comes. She was not supposed to break, but she did. The spiritual woman's hands shook last night. Her voice didn't hold the same confidence she had before. Her altar shook. The fire would not continue burning. The elements turned against her. The water in her bowl spilled without touch, and the smoke of incense reversed, rising back into her mouth, choking her instead of purifying the path she had laid down against you, because a contract was signed, yes, with her hands and his money. Someone you trust provided her with what she requested, not gold, not silver, but something more precious: your name, your photo, your birthday, and a spoken curse sealed with bitter will, and she took it unhesitantly. She did what she does, opened her books, invoked names you do not know, and began to spin her web of silence around you. That's why you felt so stifled. That's why doors slammed, people chilled, and you began to doubt your very own purpose. She wasn't just casting spells, she was weaving delays into your atmosphere. She was smearing your name with mud. In the spirit she said words like, "They shall not rise, they shall not be seen, they shall remain forgotten until their breath runs out." But something happened last night. She saw a man in white robes standing next to her bed. When she tried to sleep, he wasn't sleeping, he wasn't smiling, he was holding a sword made of wind, and his words went into her bones without sound. He didn't yell his voice, he didn't speak the way mortals speak, he just pointed to her ceiling and then to the name she had written down on the paper, your name, and her soul began to unravel. Her room grew cold, though her candles were burning. The shadows, she thought, obeyed her, began to whisper behind her, and her voice couldn't command them anymore, because the agreement she made came with a stipulation: she must never fear what she sees. But last night she saw something greater than what her eyes were made to understand, and she broke. She whispered, "I revoke it, I undo it, I cancel what I have done." But it was not enough, because heaven already began to undo what she did not, because of her words. Someone crying for you, someone on earth who didn't know the full story, but cried for you anyway. They cried the way only the desperate can, and the cry rose higher than her spell. This is why you've been waking up between 2 and 4 a.m. And this is why you've been dreaming things you don't understand, because your spirit has been fighting in places your body cannot follow, and now the tide has turned. Finally, God is exposing everything. The man who made the deal with her, he thought no one would know. He walked away from her doorstep with false peace in his heart. He thought your silence was confirmation that his request was working. He even smiled when you failed, but last night was his undoing, too, because the woman has turned on him. not by will but by force, and she will now speak of things she was sworn to silence. She will be exposed, but more than that, his name will come out of her mouth, not in secrecy but in judgment. You are being lifted out of the net that was laid in the spirit realm. The invisible threads around your progress are being burned. The words spoken over your name are being overturned, and you must understand this: the reason for your delay was not your lack of effort, it was this hidden hand stretched against your life with the permission of someone you once embraced. He gave her access to your life in a moment of envy. He didn't look like a threat, but he harbored the kind of bitterness that grows silently until it becomes deadly, and she took that bitterness and built an altar from it. But she couldn't finish it, not because of her strength, but because of yours, because of your calling, because of the one who marked your destiny before you were born. The hour she tried to seal it, heaven cracked open, and Michael the archangel descended into her room. That's what she saw. That's who stood at her bed. That's the one who reversed the smoke and turned her own words back onto her. And now you must be careful, not afraid, but careful, because the next 9 days are sacred. In this span of time, things will be restored to you in secret, but others will begin to fall in public. You will be exposed. The one who gave your name to be bound, his face will twitch. When he hears of your success, his body will grow weak at the news of your progress, not because of what you do to him, but because of what heaven has already begun to release in your name. And the woman, her hands will shake for the next 3 weeks. She will not be able to cast again, because the spiritual gate she opened has been sealed by fire from above, and her name is now on a list she cannot erase. Your dreams are about to return, the right ones, not the confusing shadows, but the clear visions. Your mind will feel lighter in the morning. Your appetite will return, and the heaviness in your chest, the one that made no sense, the one that came without cause, it will lift, because the weight was spiritual and it has now been removed. There is one thing left: forgive. You must forgive, not because they deserve it, but because your next elevation depends on clean hands. Your freedom is secured, but to rise higher you must not carry their sin in your heart. It will be hard, especially when you see their name, when you hear the things they said about you in your absence, when you realize the celebration they held after your hardship. But do not curse them, bless them with silence. Move forward with peace. You are being watched now, not by them but by heaven, and heaven is waiting to see if your next step will be worthy of what is being prepared for you. Do not post about it. Do not throw indirect messages. Do not leak what you know. Let their fall come from a place of silence, and let your rise be louder than any response you could ever give. The woman, she will try to contact you in subtle ways, through someone, through symbols, through unusual coincidences. She will not ask for forgiveness directly, but she will try to test if the door is still open. It is not close. It in silence. Let your spirit speak your boundary and walk away. The restoration has begun, but the fulfillment is coming in layers, one by one. The things that were held back will be placed in your hands again. Your name has been rewritten in the Spirit, and it now carries the mark of divine authority. Speak gently, walk humbly, trust deeply, and know God. says they will not stop what I have spoken. Even if they gather again, even if they plot another way, they will not touch you, because now the covenant around you has been rewritten in fire, and those who touch fire get burned. You are not the same as you were before. You are not unprotected. You are not forgotten, and you are no longer delayed. The journey from this day forward will unfold strangely. Some people will distance themselves without cause. Do not chase them. That is part of the clearing. The space they leave behind will be filled with true connections. Strange favor will find you in places you don't expect, with people you've never met. Some will help you without knowing why. Others will bless you without asking questions. That is not coincidence. That is divine compensation. There is someone coming into your life with keys, not just metaphorical ones, literal keys for a house, for an opportunity, for a position, for a season you thought you lost. You didn't lose it. It was delayed because you weren't supposed to walk into it with that curse on your back, but now that it's broken, you will walk in clean, and the ones who saw you crawling will watch you fly. There is a sound being released in heaven over your name. It is not a trumpet, it is not a bell, it is the sound of laughter, because heaven is rejoicing, because the one they targeted survived. Someone made a deal with a spiritual woman to block your destiny, but the woman last night, she could no longer continue. Her hands trembled. Her sleep was interrupted by visions she could not control, and her breath was stolen by the fear of what she saw standing behind you like fire, and the voice of the Most High calling your name out loud. She could not go further, and the chains they asked her to tie around your path fell to the ground like dust. She lit the candle to silence your voice, but the candle cracked in her hand, and the wax burned her skin. The name they whispered into the ritual dissolved in the wind, and your name rose higher than her altar. She wanted to press something dark against your progress, but heaven stood in the way and nothing moved forward in their favor. You were surrounded not by men, not by threats, not by human effort, but by the hand of the Lord, who already knew this plan before it was born in their minds. This isn't fiction, this isn't a tale, it's a spiritual truth buried under silence. But tonight the silence ends, because heaven saw it, the transaction, the words, the agreement, the moment one soul asked another to interfere in what God Himself had already written. But you are not under their contract, you are not under their influence, you are not under their silence, you are not under their eyes, because the woman last night, she saw something, and she will not come near your name again. The light that covers you is blinding to her. The words spoken over you by your ancestors, the prayers whispered in secret by one who weeps for you at night, the oil that was once poured on your head even when you didn't know its purpose, all of it formed a shield that no ritual could break. You are safe, you are untouched, you are rising. I have seen what they tried to do in the shadows. I saw the deal, I saw the night, I heard the words, but I was already there. I stood in between. I rewrote what they tried to scribble in your fate. I intercepted the messenger, I erased the binding, I scattered the ash before it reached your name. And so now you wonder why you felt a shift in the atmosphere, why your dreams were uneasy, why you woke Up as if someone had called your name from a place you could not see. It was the moment the interference failed. It was the moment the heavens reversed it. They planned for your path to be delayed, but even the stars are moving in your favor now. The plans they made have dissolved. The woman will speak no more concerning you. She knows now she cannot touch what God has sealed. She tasted the bitterness of trying to harm a soul that heaven protects. You felt it. That cold feeling around your room, that strange silence, that sudden confusion. It was not just a feeling, it was the shadow of the spiritual interference trying to come near your mind, but the light in you repelled it. The name of the Lord stood strong in the places you cannot see. They tried to block your opportunities. They tried to confuse your relationships. They tried to make you doubt your purpose. They tried to scatter your stability. But the woman last night, she stopped. She feared. She stepped back. She saw too much. She heard the cry of angels descending, and she knew. You are untouchable. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are not defeated. Even when you didn't know I was shielding you, even when you couldn't see the reason for the delay, I was clearing the air. Even when they whispered your name in space is not meant for you, I was louder. I sent light. I sent angels. I sent confusion into their camp. I shut it down before it could bloom. And now look closely. The doors are beginning to open. The heaviness is beginning to lift. The path is clearing again. The confusion is melting because someone tried to hide your future in darkness, but I brought it back into light. You are not what they hoped to make you. You are not the victim they imagined. You are not the trapped one, nor the one who will fall apart. You are rising again with more clarity than before because the spiritual interference has been removed. The night has passed. The deal has failed. The block has lifted. The truth is standing. So pray not with fear, not with panic, but with confidence that what God has spoken over your life is greater than what anyone tried to do against it. Pray because heaven heard. Pray because heaven answered. Pray because you are covered. Even now they are wondering why their energy has faded, why the confusion isn't working anymore, why your joy is returning, why your peace feels stronger than before. It's because the veil has lifted. The spiritual woman has backed away. The contract is void. The interruption is over, and now your path is open. Your name is echoing in the right places. Your hands are free to build again. Your feet are moving forward again. If you'd like to donate or show your appreciation, you can give a super thanks up to $100. Nothing will go wrong with you. You are safe. You just have to trust and stay close to God. There is nothing for you to fear, because even in the moments you couldn't understand, even in the nights where you couldn't sleep, you were being protected. Rest now. God is near. Nothing they tried has worked. Nothing they said has lasted. You are still chosen. You are still rising, and this time nothing will block you, because this time nothing will block you. Not the words whispered behind closed doors, not the candle burned in your name, not the fear that crept into your chest in the middle of the night, because the Lord has declared over you enough. The battle for your destiny has already been won in a realm that your eyes have never seen. The silence you experienced was not abandonment, it was preparation, it was heaven moving in stillness, it was angels walking through the fabric of time to reset the moments that others tried to steal from you. That woman who was summoned, she tried to listen for your voice in the spirit, but all she heard was thunder, all she saw was a whirlwind around your name, a light too bright for her eyes. She dropped the string, she backed away, she said, I can't, not this one, not this soul, there is something over them that I can't reach. Yes, there is a mark on you that came before you were born, a covenant sealed not by your works but by the grace of the Almighty, a protection that speaks even when you are silent, a covering that holds even when you are unaware. You are not ordinary. They don't know how many times your name was spoken in rooms you never entered. They don't know how many times you were almost erased, but something invisible pushed back, and even now they're wondering why you are still standing, why you haven't broken yet, why you still shine despite their best effort to dim you, because it's not your own strength keeping you. I have written your story in a place that no hand can reach. I have sealed your name in light. I have assigned angels who do not sleep. You are not walking alone even when it feels like the world has turned away. I am still present. I am still your shield. I am still the voice that roars when others whisper against you. You are not late, you are not. Behind the delay was a detour designed by heaven to let the shadows reveal themselves. They thought you wouldn't notice, they thought you would blame yourself, they thought their agreement with darkness would silence your joy. But the woman last night, she saw the error, she saw your guardian, she saw your covering, she saw the light on your path, and her eyes could not bear it. She left her altar unfinished, she left her spell undone, she left the moment broken and fled in fear, because the power that surrounds you is not man-made, it is divine. It is sacred, and it is not to be touched by hands that walk in deceit. You may not have known what was happening. You may have thought your emotions were just heavy, that your sleep was just broken by stress. But no, there was interference in the unseen. There was movement behind the curtain, and you were being fought for. There were names mentioned beside yours that were never meant to rise with you. There were souls who smiled at you but wished for your stagnation. There were prayers made not to bless but to confuse. But the Lord who sees the hidden things of men, the Lord who rides upon the winds and walks through shadows with fire in his eyes, he stepped into that dark place and he said, "This one is mine." And in that moment every dark contract failed. So now walk boldly again, walk knowing that even what was meant to bind you has become a stepping stone for your rise. Walk knowing that you are watched by heaven, guided by angels, and sealed by the light that cannot be touched. You may still feel the residue of what they tried to send your way, but it's fading day by day, it's breaking off you thought by thought. You're returning to your true power. Moment by moment your clarity is being restored. You're not confused anymore, you're not stuck anymore, you're not entangled in their web, because the one who made you is untangling every rope. Even now things are shifting. People who were close are falling. Silent situations that used to bind are losing their grip. The thoughts that once drowned you are becoming quieter, because your soul is returning to its rightful rhythm, because your mind is no longer under the shadow, because your future is calling louder than their past projections. God says, I removed what you didn't see, I corrected what you didn't understand, I preserved what